Okay, we've seen the propaganda being shown. The locusts have emerged out of the earth. Now we need to see the symbolism that's going to be applied to the blues. And it would have to be in perfect reflection of what I've already revealed is their plans to do. If we're seeing these locusts emerge out of the ground, basically the arrival of the locust, well, they can only come after destruction. Symbolically, the destruction has taken place. We have the emergence of the locust. The next thing that we need to see symbolized is that this remnant is going to leave. This white brotherhood, this hoarfrost of heaven, this monatomic gold is going to rise up, levitate. This 44% plans on leaving and going somewhere. That's what we would have to see. And we know who it is. It's false Israel. It's connected to the founders of the United States. It's connected to the presidency of the White House. We would have to see them abandoning the White House in perspective of everything to do with the hoarfrost of heaven as I've described it in connection to the monatomic gold. And you should have watched that series to understand, hopefully. We would have to see all that. Well, we are. Notice that as they're showing the reds here to the right of the screen, all the buildings are red in the background. Not too covered with snow here, very important. As they begin to pan to the blues, the scene changes, lightens in color. The majority of the buildings now are covered in snow. The building here that we see is completely covered in snow. In other words, it's a White House. But we see that this White House is fallen down, and that someone seeks to come out of it. In other words, aka abandon it. This White House is fallen down, and exactly what we would see with the remnant and the elect, they're coming out of it. They're not going down with this fallen house. It's an abandoned house, and they plan on leaving it. Very important, because the assemblage that was being set up with those locusts, as you saw, was absolutely accurate with the Bible, and it was accurate within the translations as how we've already discovered and seen it on this channel. You would have to take into account that the next portion, the blues, and the scene introduction with everything that takes place with them at this point would fulfill exactly as the interpretation that I have given you, that is not on the surface in the Bible, but what I've found through my experience with the Spirit of Truth, that this 44% sees itself in connection to this hoarfrost of heaven, this monatomic gold that plans on disappearing to the field of Shinar. Well, that's exactly what you see connected here, that he is coming out of this frosty, icicled, covered cavern. In other words, that's that hoar frost of heaven that symbolizes the connection even to the whore of sacred feminine of Genesis 6. And it's even going to connect further. It is connecting them back to the army of Joel 2, the true Dans, that they believe are going to work with them, but as you see, Jesus Christ says they're not. By showing all of these icicles in this White House, this falling down White House, in other words, it's the White House of the United States. that they plan on causing to fall down and bring down, but they aren't going to go down with it. They plan on rising up. And that's what all of this symbolism is, with this whole thing being covered with this frosty snow and icicles. That's the monatomic gold fractal we've already discovered. Now, as I said, the symbolism runs deeper, because as they're offering you the deception, the psychological propaganda, implantation, subliminal, in the mind of the masses, being entertained with this movie as they watch it, they're being offered subtly the suggestion of the Reds as the locust. But yet now, to their highest of initiates, they can reason these things. They're showing that they are fully connected to this true army of the North that is truly going to be white-haired, as Hor translates to white. So when we're saying hoarfrost, it is this extra white, not just white skin, but also going to be this white hair. And it's the full description of the Nephilim descendants as it's recorded in ancient scripture. Not red-haired. They are going to great lengths to overlay multiple scenarios of this code. And what I fully see with this is that they are abandoning the White House. It's fallen down. The select elect is coming out of it. And that's exactly what you see with this left eye illuminated symbol right here. Now, take this very seriously, because what you are seeing being shown to you simultaneously is the Great Seal of the United States. This is one side. This is the eye. As you're seeing the eye here, this is the eye here of that seal, and this is the left eye. Now we have the eagle, and that's exactly what is in this eye. And then notice the colors: red, white, and blue. What is everything to do with this scene right now? Red, white, and blue. We've already done videos that show the significance with that in connection to the 3 dog stars of Orion, which just so happen to be red, white, and blue. Now remember, this iron being taken out of the earth that was mixed with the Murray clay and Daniel is this Orion. And this is further making the fullness of connections to who the real Dans, this false fallen Israel, believes it's connected to, as it's offering you up their deceptive interpretation that is at the same time exposing some sort of pending judgment on the Gentiles. Now, by symbolizing this eagle with the left eye, you have to realize that they are only showing a portion of the blues coming out of the abandoned, fallen down White House. The others are coming from buildings that are still up. One has a chimney burning. In essence, it means that they're not all going somewhere. These select elect don't have a true residence here any longer. That house has been abandoned a long time ago, and they are going to fully leave it. And that's the symbolism that they're showing in this scene, fulfilling Rev 12 and Zac 5 exactly as the Spirit of Truth has revealed it to me. This symbolism here with the eagle, we're going to look into a parable from Jesus Christ that describes certain eagles being gathered to a carcass, to a body. Wherever that body is, that's where the eagles are going to be gathered. These are the eagles, and where that body is going to be is on Shinar. that's being brought. I think we had a time outage. We're going to look into a certain parable from Jesus Christ describing an eagle. Eagles, plural, that are gathered to a body. Wherever the body is, wherever the carcass is, there will the eagles be gathered. From what I've just told you, and you've seen coded into this movie with their secretive agenda of what they're going to do, the parable will fulfill and just completely make you wide awake. You will see and understand what it's talking about, and it will fulfill in the understanding with them going to the moon and everything that I've revealed with this picture right here. Because that is the physical body carcass that they're carrying to the moon so that it can be invested with the fallen prince's spirit. I know that sounds absolutely out of this world and crazy, like some sort of movie, right? But nonetheless, it's real. That's what they're working on. That's what they're doing. Whether they're lowest or they're highest understand that or not at this point. I don't think that in the degrees of some of these orders that you gotta, I think how the illumination thing works is that it's past the 33rd degree. That once you get past that, that's when you're considered illuminated. I think in essence, this is what we see being that super select it's going to be lifted. I think the message here that you'll see as we view this further is that a lot of them are going to be left behind. A lot of them are going to be left behind. Remember the symbol for the eagle in Rev 12, that they're going to be lifted up on the great wings of an eagle. In reality, the fulfillment of these two seals are telling you that exact message. Everything to do with what their plans are at this specific moment in time. And that's exactly what was coded into here. Notice that the remnant, the select elect, is the only one coming out of that house in the center. Okay, him. And then the others are coming from other houses that are not falling down, which means they're not going anywhere. They got residences here. They're going to stay. So there was the perfect message for false Israel, secret society, mystery religion, ecclesiastical Babylon, the controller of commercial Babylon, the militant representation of all that through Ephraim, the leader of false Israel, showing you in its own propaganda, if you had the eyes to see it, that they plan on leaving this abandoned, fallen down White House at the time of the arrival of their faked locusts. Of course, which is connected to their fake millstone. To their fake millstone, right? Because remember, the millstone is also faked. So the connection with the millstone being faked is it would have the faked Dans that go with it. As you see, they're trying to produce it as the Reds. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Now, the next thing that you're going to see right here is going to be perfectly on time. This will identify these blues as the Masons, as it's already done thus far. And it's going to fulfill the parable of the wheat and the tares also, with the most relative symbols, with everything that I said about the separation of the wheat and the tares in perspective of Zach 5, talking about this woman and this wickedness being lifted up to this land of Shinar, which is the same reflection of Rev 12, just told to you in another way. But we need to see the same symbols that are going to still show up that are relative to these scriptures. It has to be there if I'm right. It has to be there if that's what they're saying secretly, that they see themselves as fulfilling in these scriptures. Well, the first thing that we need to see is that they see themselves as the Masons. And we have more, of course. I mean, you can obviously see that thus far. It says hardware. Right there on that building, right behind them. Where do you get tools? Remember, these Masons are the compass and the square. Tools for building and destroying realities as they would see it. Now, when we look over at the Reds, what do you think we're going to see behind them? It would have to be in a perfect reflection of what we're talking about concerning the Reds, would it not? To make this valid as well. So the hardware back there is no accident. It's revealing the tools, the keepers of the tools. Now notice what you see to the left portion of the screen. You see what's referred to as a mansard roof, which is commonly referred as a barn roof. Now, what is the parable in the wheat and the tares about? Where is this wheat, this good wheat, supposed to be gathered? It's supposed to be gathered into the barn. Because when you think of wheat and fields, fields of dreams, a big field is always associated with the big old barn, right? We'd have to have a barn if we're talking about this Kevin Costner coded movie, Field of Dreams. And then we know that the corn is really wheat, and then that's really symbolism for the pineal gland or the pineal gland, which would be in reflection to Jacob once again in his wrestling with God at Pineal. Starting to follow this? So we would have to see a barn there, would we not? Because they see themselves as this wheat that's supposed to be lifted up and gathered into this barn. We know where that field of dreams is that's got the barn on it. It's Shinar, right? Yeah. So it's these hardware laborers, workers. Hard, what's hard? Iron, Orion. It's all there. Red, white, and blue. Right there. He is unified with the red, white, and the blue. That's what they're telling you. They're working all of this together to work it out. So that elect, that few that came out of that falling down White House that you saw showing the sign of illumination are the ones that think they're being gathered into that barn. And that's going to be the richest of the rich of them. And that's why Jesus Christ says that it's easier to pass a camel through the eye of a needle. It's easier to pass a camel through the eye of a needle than to pass a rich man through the gates of heaven. Incredible. These super rich, elite, you got to remember, the descendants of Jacob won this wealth right, if you would also. It's this super rich in which Jesus Christ is talking about that are now doing what he's referring to as an easier work by them bringing that camel, Satan, through the eye of a needle. Well, what would the eye of a needle be? Well, the eye of a needle would be an obelisk. An obelisk is a phallus, which means they have brought the fallen prince that is being referred to as Satan, but I've told you the Sumerian name is Enki, the Nahesh. They have brought the Nahesh, the symbolic camel, if you've already seen before, through the eye of a needle. The needle is the obelisk. The eye represents this ancient pharaonic Babylonian serpent descendancy that they've connected and collected the genetics from to build a body from it. And then this camel is being passed through that eye, which is being represented of the single eye of the penis, which represents the semen, which represents him being birthed into a material form. And Jesus is saying, well, the work that they did to do all that for these thousands of years is easier than what's going to take to bring these rich men through the gates of heaven. You hear that? Incredible. So we have the hardware symbolizing the tool workers. We have the barn symbolizing the field of dreams. The pair with the parable of the wheat and the tares telling you what they think. once they abandon this White House, symbolizing the hoarfrost of heaven. Now, what do you think we're barber? Now, the key with the hair, give me 1 second here. There's the hardware. Let me rewind because I didn't get a chance to show it to you when it was happening. I probably didn't see it, didn't point it out. But above them, the main sign above the reds, it says barber. I'm going to end this video because there's a train coming. Guys, I have some real intense scripture to share with you. Hopefully I'll be able to get to it tonight. And I really do hope that I explained this well and that you understood and you've been watching the videos and you've been taking this serious, because it is very important. Behind these reds, it's going to show this barber sign for whatever reason, and that's going to connect to hair, right? Give me a moment, guys. Remember what I did the series about why do witches and wizards wear that tall pointy hat? Well, it's the same thing with the top hat. It's the same symbolism. They've got the unicorn horn. You know, they've risen the Kundalini spirit, or they're trying to. Okay, and that's what that top hat and symbolism represents. There it is. There's the reds. There's the one sign above them. And what would you think that sign would say? Because remember, the chief symbol to connect Esau with, that everybody identifies, is hair. And there we have barber right there behind the reds. Incredible. Notice that we have two men with X'd suspenders. It's two X's, that's XX chromosome, once again symbolizing femininity, which would pair to the parable that Jesus Christ gives in Luke 11, describing this woman of the south that we'll talk about later, but which is connecting the Dans and their connection to Ishtar, Irish Kigal, another reflection of the underworld. Those two X's are no accident. That's XX chromosome. That's female chromosome symbolism. This XX also represents the double cross. It represents the planet of crossing, and it represents that this planet and its people are being double crossed. It represents that these reds are a double cross. It represents that they're a deception. And then also this is the symbolism, as you should know, as we've talked just briefly on, for Osiris as well, and many, many, many other things. It represents portion of the seal, which would be appropriate if these were being loosed from a seal. So the train, you know, sorry about that. So there we have the barber sign. I mean, come on, guys. Incredible. Now, these guys with this fallen down White House, and then depicting it covered in ice and frost and snow. And then you know about the monatomic gold with this hoarfrost of heaven. then the barn and the parable, everything that you saw, everything that you should know if you've been watching this channel already. If you haven't been seeing the videos as of late, I do urge you to watch them. Let's move forward here. I'm going to try to make this video short. This is where that inverted triangle was. It's faded out now to the heart of New York City. From the heart of New York City, I should say. And this next scene, very important. What we have is the descendant of the locust that was known as the priest, the leader of the dead rabbits. And remember, hair from barber, hair, a rabbit is also called a hare. Well, now that his father, in that battle they had out in that inverted womb vagina at the 5 points, the 5 burrows in the middle of a pentagram that became all bloody, the priest has been killed. And then now we see the little boy has grown up to young adulthood. And he's in this holding place like a reform school, something like that. And what they're going to do with the symbolism now is very important. Realize that they're applying the Christian cross here once again to the descendants of Esau. And then also the entire consumer-based society. They're applying and associating this in a negative sense with these reds. And then you see that he's going to be given a Bible at this point right now. He's being handed a Bible. Now you have to realize Revelation chapter 9, they're still trying to fulfill it with the arrival of the locusts. They come out spewing fire, smoke, and brimstone, of which the correct translation would be that they are speaking false doctrine. Now, this is showing where he's coming out of. The way of transgressors, and it's being described, is hard. Well, as you know, I told you that they keep trying to pin the iron thing on one thing or the other. But as you should know, the correct interpretation was what I just told you with that red, white, and blue. The 3 brightest stars of Orion, those dog stars. But yet, as I said, that was super deep in there. Not many people would have realized that. But as we see, possibly their lower initiates are being had here by the way of the transgressor is hard, which would then affix this iron prefix to the reds. Which, as you know, it doesn't. This is the propaganda. So, the young propaganda Nephilim locust is leaving. I want you to see what they're about to show you now to solidify the deal here, that this is a fulfillment, their interpretation of what they're going to bring of Revelation chapter 9. The locusts are coming out of the gate or the pit of hell. That's basically the layman's interpretation of Rev 9, as the locusts come out of this smoking pit from the earth, this dark black well, if you would. So there it is. This is New York City. Once again, the reds being connected to this coming out of a hellgate house, and then now being symbolized as a pit, a black well. Once again, New York City. Man, incredible. I mean, can you imagine how many people have fought me for over the last 2 years that were trying to stop this information from coming out? I mean, and how the majority of them are listening to this video right now. I mean, can you imagine how hard they have tried to stop me from speaking this truth, when in all reality, it's them that are supposed to hear it? That's just unreal. I don't think it's funny, and forgive me for even musing at it. Really, forgive me for musing at it, because it's not funny. And we are all brothers, regardless of any separations of faith, as you might see it. We're brothers. I'm not seeking to destroy you, but I'm not wanting to be destroyed, because I believe in Jesus Christ and mercy and forgiveness, you know, and I'm not indoctrinated, you know. There's a big gulf between dreams and reality, you know, a big gulf. And what separates it is people who are asleep. The time went out there a little bit. Basically, I said a true reality is when you're awake and not dreaming. As you can see, even reflecting it with the Apsu, okay, that bottomless pit, that well, there he goes. He pitches the Bible, as you see, right there, tosses it away. Very, very important. Very important, because that is once again seeking to fulfill with what their plan of the fake Dans are going to do. And in all reality, I want you to realize they've applied the Christian cross here. You've seen that. They've applied the stigmatism with the earth pig that they applied to the name Jesus Christ. As you have seen over and over and over, they are associating this with Christians, okay, which really is their chief Gentile. But yet this is further layered with Esau, and then using the symbolism of the red hair to guarantee that everybody receives that message that should be learned and understood. But of course, depending on higher degrees of how they operate, correct? So the message would be, in my opinion, that they are showing that yes, these reds that we're going to produce, the ringer, the red herring, are going to be speaking out against the Bible. But in reality, they're only going to be speaking out against a portion of the Bible, and they're trying to connect them to the other portion of that. That'd be Christianity. So the plan is to make it look like the reds are opposed to a portion of the Bible, and then as you see, Israel is not opposed to another portion. They're all for it. And then I believe that Israel thinks that the Dans, of course, okay, the wicked judge, is going to be on their side and work together, and then that's when they're going to promote the Israelite side of the Bible, the interpretation of their God, that serpent in the wilderness that was lifted up, right? That serpent wisdom, that serpent seed doctrine. And when we say serpent seed on this channel, we're not talking about anybody that was actually seeded by the devil or seeded by a serpent. It's more or less an ideology that has seeded the minds of men. And then the descendancy through the genetics is being taken place through the fallen sons of God that were in material form. They didn't look like serpents. The serpent symbolism that people are applying to aliens today, and then we're applying to the ancient Egyptian gods because they had serpents symbolized coming out of their foreheads and all around them, represents the third eye. It's in the reptilian portion of the brain. That's the overlay code for this third eye illumination, is reptiles. It symbolizes the reptilian portion of the brain, which is then geared to the Earth's magnetic field, to these subtle energies, right? So that's what they're really trying to disguise the masses with, supposedly aliens that are supposed to be reptilian and working with blah, 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 this, that, and the other. And then supposedly these Egyptian gods or ancient Anunnaki were supposed to be actual serpents or reptiles. No. The deal is that they were demigods that were from this union of these fallen that were the Anunnaki with these fair daughters of men. Then produced the Nephilim that now further symbolize the serpent symbolism as having the illumination of this third eye, the pineal gland in the reptilian portion of the brain. That's why the little cobras were depicted in ancient Egypt emerging from the forehead. Okay? So that's what they're saying here. They're saying that, yeah, we're going to produce these fake Dans, and they're going to speak down against the Bible. But here's the second message. And this is about where the video is going to stop. The second message is the moment that Bible is gone, what do they flash on the screen next? It says, slavery is abolished. And, you know, of course, there's always digital audio technical difficulties, always. But once again, this is their medium. They control it. I don't know. It says slavery abolished. That's the message with the portion of the Bible that they want to get rid of, that they applied in the beginning of that scene with the Christian cross. Bar none. Bar none. That represents Jesus and his believers. That they are now pinning with this Esau symbolism, in which you should fully understand that in connection to all of their propaganda. I mean, as I'm telling you, with this Wendy's cup, and then the main theme for these beef burgers, they call them ham burgers. And you know, ham is pigs. So these are pig burgers for pigs, right? That's what they're calling this consumer-based herd society. When in all reality, we see that the Ma sons are the Mu sons. And then they really see themselves descended from these sacred cows. Doesn't that make them the real herd? Yes, it does. It does. It's incredible. So there's so much involved in all of this. There's so much that is so treacherous in its implications and its intent. I mean, man, I tell you guys, can you imagine? I mean, all the stuff that has been revealed on this channel for 2 years. Can you imagine what I really understand and what I really know? And that I'm proven that I know it. I'm proven that it's real. I'm proven that it's all been shown to me over 20 plus years ago, before I knew it, because something else knew it. That was the Spirit of Truth. I am a witness, and I'm not one of the witnesses of Revelation 11 out the Bible and all that stuff. I'm not talking about that. I'm a witness of Jesus Christ. I am a living, breathing witness of the validity of one who has actual experience with the Creator. Truly a personal relationship. Jesus Christ has led me through this every step of the way. And I have been mostly unable to keep up. I have, in all actuality, not truly been worthy. So much has been shown to me, and I've really spoken so little of it so far. There's so much that has really been given to me that I actually crumble under its weight. It's more than I'm able to bear. It's not more than I'm able to share, but the time that it takes to do it, the time that it takes to keep your attention and to see that this is all relative is what handicaps us all. You know, everybody knows that I do these videos beside a train track. There are initiates of their orders everywhere you go. They let me know that they are watching my videos, and they show it in advertising. I'm seeing it in commercials on TV. I'm seeing it in songs. I'm seeing skateboard channels, and they know who they are coding the way that I'm revealing things into their videos and their description boxes. Right, I'll just go ahead and say it. Thrasher Magazine, who is out openly satanic, you know? I'm not judging you, Thrasher Magazine, at all. What I'm trying to help you do is see that Jesus Christ is real, and that he has urged me to offer as much spiritual fruit that I have in my basket to you as I can, so that you might be able to make a better decision off of better informed information than you might have ever had thus far. You know, and that's what we can do, and then the rest is up to you. I'll be back.